At the entrance of Bullhead City's Community Park on State Route 95 is a marker honoring northeastern Arizona's vital relationship with the Colorado River. For nearly 30 years, in the mid-1800s, commercial steamships served the mining communities of northern Arizona, hauling supplies from as far downriver as Yuma. Cargo was unloaded at nearby Hardyville, often returning downstream with barge loads of local ore. Bull's Head Rock, from which Bullhead City derived its name, was located just upstream. The escarpment was used as a navigation marker and the point where Mojave Indians forded the river. Bull's Head Rock was submerged in 1953 with the building of Davis Dam. Today, the Colorado is still Bullhead City's lifeblood. Jet skis have replaced the steamships, and Laughlin, Nevada's casinos just across the river have replaced the mines, mining tourist wallets instead of the ore from the mountains.
Deregulation of electrical power markets swept the nation more than a decade ago, but the effort produced massive failures, including the infamous Enron case. Now the Arizona Corporation Commission is taking early and decidedly cautious steps at what is being called retail competition in a landscape changed by an increase in power sources outside the regulatory domain of the Commission. Here now with more on the future of electric deregulation in Arizona is Corporation Commissioner, actually that is former Corporation Commissioner Jeff Hatchmiller, and also joining us is current Corporation Commissioner Bob Burns. Good to have you both here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Give me a better definition of electric deregulation.
Well, it's really electric re-regulation in a way. It's to designate that certain components of electric delivery, like generation, are opened up to outside providers, private companies, not your APS, SRP, or TEP.
Is that how you see it as well?
Well, yeah, I think I need to qualify my statements because I'm in a position of not taking any sides. Now, coming out of the legislature, I used to be able to take sides, but not anymore. This is a different situation. The responsibility of the corporation commissioners is to represent the ratepayers. And so we end up in these issues of people on one side or the other, and our responsibility is to represent the ratepayers. We want to be able to get the best deal for the ratepayer, obviously. And there are a number of people out there saying that the way to do that is by retail competition, deregulation, open market, so forth. We have a regulated monopoly model in place now, and so a transition away from that is going to be a major effort. And so we want to at least take a look, but look very, very closely at it and study it very, very closely before we make any movements in any direction or the other.
The idea of the best deal for ratepayers, I mean, there's the best deal as to what you pay, and there's the best deal as far as public policy and infrastructure and the whole 9 yards. Talk to us more about that.
Well, most people want a low rate and reliable service. I mean, reliable service is even more important here in Arizona because of our hot summers. You want to make sure that your air conditioner is going to run pretty much every day. And so as Bob said, the Commission's role is to balance the needs of the ratepayer and the utilities to make sure that they're getting a fair profit off of their activity, and that balancing act is really important. But for the average user, Joe and Mary, they're basically saying, I'd like to have reliable, affordable electricity.
And I guess some people would look at this and say, is there a problem that deregulation would fix?
Well, and that's a statement that a lot of people make, what's broke?
Yes.
Okay, but there's also the other statement, there's always the better mousetrap. And now the pressure that's coming from those people, those organizations, those different types of energy production that are outside the control of the Corporation Commission. You've got independents building power stations out there. You've got the solar issue. You've got the wind and all of these other different mechanisms that weren't around when the last debacle happened. So it's a different landscape, and so I think it's imperative that we, the commissioners representing the ratepayers, get out in front of this issue. We need to understand as best we can what the options are out there and then make decisions based on that. So this is the reason why we voted to put this into a study category, if you will, to take a closer look and better know what all is out there as far as the options are concerned and how it will impact, at the bottom line, the ratepayers.
Is it a different landscape than back in the California energy crisis / Enron days? Because that was a debacle and then some. I mean, have things changed?
Not to my vantage point, no. I mean, there are different forms of generation, solar and wind primarily, but the issues are still the same. It's the same group that's coming in and applying pressure. They're the wannabe electric power brokers. There's the big power users. Mainly deregulation is to help lower prices for big multinational corporations, the big box retailers, the mines, the industrial activity. Most of the average smaller ratepayer really isn't in this game. It's a big money deal, and there's lobbyists. In Congress in the last decade they spent over $50 million just lobbying this effort in Congress. So it's a big money game. People from outside, like Enron did 12 years ago, came from outside and they wanted a share of the money to be made in the power business. And so from that vantage point, it's the same group, pretty much identical players actually, wanting to get back into the power market and sell to the big users of electricity.
Well, I think there's some additions to that. With all of these rooftop systems that are going into place, as that footprint grows, that has an impact on the utility company's ability to recover the costs of building the plant. And so that issue is also out there to be dealt with. I've heard recently in a couple of conferences I've been at that there's the development of fuel cells. And if they become successful, there was even the talk of a refrigerator-size fuel cell for the homeowner, which would basically put you almost 100% independent. Now, there's always got to be that backup system in case of some kind of failure. But so those issues need to be wrung out, I believe, so that we understand, again, as the commissioners, what works and what will not work. This pressure of the outside entities, the fuel cell people, there's talk of a breakthrough possibly, who knows when, on batteries, which would have a tremendous impact on the rooftop community if they could have batteries, and that all comes back as a smaller base for the utility to operate off of.
And we've talked about this before, that there may be a new normal coming very quickly as far as utilities are concerned, especially when you talk about net metering and a variety of other issues that could put lots of homeowners very independent of whatever's happening with the major utilities. Is this just a step toward that direction, or have things not changed in the grand scheme of things that much?
Well, it's fuel cells. We were talking about that back in 2001, 2003. Same issue. Solar we were talking about. Wind we were talking about. The kinds of issues are the same ones, and it's the same group that's basically in the dialogue. I mean, for me, I was a proponent of deregulation back in the late 1990s. I even went to some of the American Legislative Exchange Council meetings where they touted it, and met with Enron officials in Washington, D.C. where they touted it. It wasn't until the big meltdown, as you already mentioned, first in California in 2000, 2001, where basically the electric system in California melted down to the point that they were having rolling blackouts all the time. It was a fiasco. The governor lost his job because of it. The ratepayers are still paying huge rate increases from that. And then Enron fell apart, and it cost hundreds of millions of dollars for the Arizona's, billions of dollars to the Arizona's economy, or to the America's economy. So it's, those things happened, and to me, I don't see any lessons learned yet that protect us from that downside.
Is there, from what you've seen so far, and I guess, from obviously you're studying as opposed to deciding right now, but have other states, and are other states using these ideas? Are they similar to Arizona? Can you compare and contrast? And how do you keep Enron from happening again?
Well, I think we obviously have to learn from the mistakes that were made, and there are other states out there. My understanding, Texas and Pennsylvania have some model in place, but that's part of this process. That we established the process to do the study to make sure that we don't get into this situation that happened before. I mean, and I think everybody on the commission is very, very sensitive to that issue. All of the employees there are sensitive to that issue. That was a big mistake, and so we definitely don't want to make that mistake again, but we do need to be able to understand the developments that's taking place, and a lot of development, I believe, has taken place. There may be some of the same types of units, solar and fuel cells and so forth, but those things evolve, and at some point they break through, and they become usable and very less, a lot less costly to use. So,
with that in mind,
yeah.
is it the best scenario that we can find right now for all of us to have these two major utilities with boundaries as the rule for whether or not you use X or Y?
Well, our rates here in Arizona are as low or lower than almost every deregulated state. If you look at the deregulated states, they're primarily the big northeastern industrialized, pretty much Democrat governmental control states, and their rates are way higher. We pay about 9.5 cents per kilowatt hour here. They're paying 14, 15 cents there. If you look at the list of deregulated states, they're primarily the total group of the most expensive states in the nation. So there's some issues here that we got to resolve. I am certainly supportive of the Commission taking a look at the issue. That's appropriate. I think that they're doing a good job to move slowly and cautiously into that. But this has to come down to, it's not just for the big ratepayers. This has to be for Joe and Mary, the average little guy in the community.
Very quickly, last
well,
word.
we put the priority that the ratepayer, the individual, and the small business people are in that category of needing the protection that we are there to provide.
All right, very good. Gentlemen, good discussion. Good to have you both here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
It's great to be here.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Eight, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.